In the bustling city of Onitsha, Ola arrived as a young boy with no family and no future. His village had been ravaged by war, and with nowhere to go to, he found himself at the gates of a prosperous merchant's house. This merchant, known as Chijiok, was known for taking in orphan children and training them to work in his grand market stall. Ola, eager to escape the shadows of his past, accepted the offer without hesitation. For 7 years, Ola worked diligently, learning the ways of the market. He became proficient in selling wares, bargaining with customers, and keeping his master's shop organized. Chijiok, his master, treated him like a son. He would often praise Ola for his hard work and dedication. Life, though full of hard labor, felt stable and secure. Ola trusted his master completely, believing the years of service had solidified their bond. But little did he know, the path ahead would soon take a dark and unexpected turn. Ola's loyalty to his master grew over time. He served not only in the market but also in the house, assisting with chores, repairs, and even managing finances. As the years passed, he earned the respect of other traders and the admiration of Chijiok's family. It felt as though all was going well. However, Ola could never have imagined the betrayal that lurked just around the corner. Chijiok began to rely on him more heavily, giving him responsibility for larger transactions, all while offering him little pay in return. Still, Ola never complained. He considered the trust placed in him to be more valuable than money. He also began to dream of one day opening his own shop, thinking that his years of service would pay off. But his hopes were dashed one fateful evening when, after a large shipment arrived, Ola was accused of stealing. It was a hot, humid evening when the accusation came. Chijiok, in a fit of rage, stormed into the market and loudly declared that Ola had stolen a large sum of money. The accusation shocked everyone, including Ola. He had worked tirelessly for years, ensuring everything was in order. But now, without any warning or proof, Chijiok had branded him a thief. Ola's heart sank as he watched his former friends and colleagues back away from him. The once great bond between him and his master now lay shattered. In a swift, harsh decision, Chijiok summoned the market authorities. Ola tried to defend himself, but his words fell on deaf ears. No one believed his innocence. He was dragged away from the marketplace, his reputation tarnished, and his future uncertain. Ola was filled with shame and embarrassment. The streets of Onitsha were filled with murmurs of the accusation, and word of the branded thief spread quickly. In a market where reputation was everything, the damage done to Ola was irreversible. His name was dragged mud. Traders who had once trusted him now avoided eye contact. Customers who had once praised his skill now looked the other way. Ola was left stranded in the middle of the market, bewildered and heartbroken. His dream of someday having his own big shop now seemed unreachable. How could he build a life, a future, when the people he had worked alongside for 7 years now sees him as a criminal? Desperation set in, and Ola was consumed by thoughts of revenge. But he knew that revenge would only lead to more pain. What he needed was justice, and in his heart, he swore to prove his innocence, no matter the cost. Days later, Ola took to the streets of Onitsha, trying to clear his name. He pleaded with anyone who would listen, recounting his years of service to Chijiok. Some people seemed sympathetic, but others turned their backs, unwilling to involve themselves. The market authorities, led by a corrupt officer, brushed him off as a troublemaker. They said the matter was already settled, that Chijiok's word was law. Ola soon realized that if he was going to clear his name, he would have to take matters into his own hands. He would need to leave the comfort of the market and venture beyond the walls of Onitsha. With nothing but the clothes on his back and a small pouch of coins, he set off on a journey that would take him far from the life he had known. It was a journey fueled by the hope of finding the truth and uncovering the real thief. Ola's journey led him through villages and towns, all while seeking information about the missing money. In one small town, he met Ngozi, a woman whose father had been a merchant much like Chijiok. She had heard of the accusations against Ola and, much to his surprise, offered her help. Ngozi was smart and resourceful, and soon she became an invaluable ally in his quest for justice. Together, they traced the money's route, speaking to traders who had worked with Chijioke and others who had seen strange transactions. With every lead, they got closer to the truth. Along the way, Ola found himself growing fond of Ngozi, her resilience offering a small glimmer of hope in his otherwise dark world. After weeks of searching, Ola and Ngozi uncovered a troubling secret. It turned out that Chijioke had been involved in a series of shady business dealings with some immoral men. In a bid to cover up his losses, he had concocted the lie that Ola had stolen the money. The evidence was clear, but the real challenge now was proving it. Chijioke's influence in Onitsha was powerful, and few were willing to speak out against him. But Ola had found a small group of traders who were willing to testify to his character. They spoke of his honesty, hard work, and dedication to his master. With their testimony in hand, Ola felt a renewed sense of hope. He now had the ammunition to confront Chijioke, but he knew the road ahead would be dangerous. Ola and Ngozi returned to Onitsha, determined to confront Chijioke with the evidence they had gathered. But things had changed. Chijioke had become more powerful, more ruthless. Word of their investigation had reached him, and he was prepared to stop them at all costs. One evening, as Ola and Ngozi were making their way to the market to confront Chijioke, they were ambushed. A group of men loyal to Chijioke attacked them in the dead of night. They were beaten and thrown into a makeshift prison. Ola's heart sank, but he refused to give up. With Ngozi by his side, he knew that this fight was far from over. In the makeshift prison, Ola and Ngozi spent several days planning their next move. They knew they couldn't confront Chijioke directly, they had to be smarter. Ola thought back to the days when he had worked in the market, learning the tricks of the trade. He remembered a secret route that led beneath the marketplace, a passageway that only a few knew about. It was time to use that knowledge. With Ngozi's help, Ola managed to escape the prison. They navigated through the tunnels beneath the market, emerging in the heart of the market just as Chijioke was preparing to leave for the day. It was time to end this once and for all. Ola stood face to face with Chijioke in the middle of the bustling market. The crowd parted as the two men locked eyes, the tension palpable. For a moment, it seemed as though time had stopped. Chijioke sneered, his usual calm demeanor replaced by irritation. "You should never have come back, Ola. You were a fool to think you could defeat me." But Ola was no longer the young, obedient apprentice. He was a man who had been wronged, and he would not back down. With the testimony of several traders and evidence of Chijioke's dishonest dealings, Ola presented his case. The crowd listened in stunned silence. After a long, drawn-out moment, the truth came to light. Chijioke's reign of deceit had finally ended. The market authorities, under pressure from the traders who had spoken out on Ola's behalf, arrested Chijioke. The trial was swift, and Chijioke was sentenced for his crimes. Ola, however, was cleared of all accusations. The market, which had once been his prison, now welcomed him back with open arms. Ola had been through so much, but in the end, justice had prevailed. He had lost everything, his position, his reputation, and his trust in people, but he had gained something even more valuable, the truth. After the trial, Ola knew that he could never return to life as it had been. The market would always remember him as the man who was branded a thief, and while he had been cleared, the scars of betrayal would remain. But that didn't stop him. With Ngozi by his side, Ola began to build a new life. He started his own shop, focusing on honesty and integrity in his dealings. Slowly, he earned the trust of customers who had once turned away from him. It wasn't easy, but Ola knew that he was finally free. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was his to walk. As time passed, Ola's reputation began to amend. Slowly, he expanded his business, forging relationships with other traders and merchants. His shop became known for its quality goods and fair prices. But despite his success, Ola never forgot the pain of his betrayal. He continued to work hard, knowing that every sale, every customer, and every transaction was a step toward healing. The pain of his past still lingered, but he had found a way to rise above it. Despite his new life, Ola's heart still carried the weight of his past. The betrayal he had experienced was not something easily forgotten. Every time he passed his master's shop, memories of his time serving Chijioke flooded his mind. Ngozi, ever the supportive friend, encouraged him to let go of the past. "You have built something new, Ola. Don't let the past define you," she would say. But it wasn't always that simple. One day, Chijioke returned to the market. His fall from grace had been hard, and he now lived in the shadows of the man he once was. He approached Ola's shop, his demeanor humble and regretful. "I owe you an apology," Chijioke said quietly. "I was wrong to accuse you." Ola looked at the man who had once been a father figure to him. The pain of the past was still fresh, but Ola knew that forgiveness was the only way forward. Ola's heart was heavy as he listened to Chijioke's apology. He had never imagined that one day he would stand face to face with the man who had betrayed him and offer forgiveness. But in that moment, Ola realized that forgiveness was not for Chijioke. It was for him. "I forgive you," Ola said softly. And just like that, a chapter of his life closed. With his past behind him, Ola's business continued to grow. His shop became one of the most popular in the market, and he found peace in knowing that his success was built on integrity. He had proven not only to others but also to himself that he could rise above his circumstances. Ola had come full circle. From the lowly apprentice to a man of principle and respect, he had created a future for himself that was not defined by the lies of his past. Few years later, Ola and Ngozi grew closer. Their bond, forged in the fires of adversity, deepened into something more. They eventually married and built a life together. Their children grew up hearing the story of their father's rise from betrayal to success, and they were taught the values of honesty and hard work. Ola's legacy was not one of bitterness but of strength and resilience. Ola often sat at his shop, watching the hustle and bustle of the market around him. He saw the young faces of the new generation, eager to make their mark. And he realized that, in a way, he was no longer the young apprentice he once was. The market had changed, and so had he. But one thing remained constant: the importance of staying true to oneself. The cycle of life continued, and Ola was at peace. Years later, Ola stood before his children, telling them the story of his life. He spoke not only of his rise to success but of the trials that had shaped him. It was a story of pain, perseverance, and redemption. He smiled, knowing that his legacy was secure. He had overcome the darkest moments of his life and had built something lasting. Ola had risen, and he would never be forgotten.